What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and also featuring that college football revamp as well. We find ourselves out here in week number 12 of the NCSL season, and a lot of things that are heating up around the conference, or not around the conferences, around the entire NCSL league in general. We have some hot races going on for the two at-large bids to the college football playoff, and then also those conference championships that will ultimately decide who ends up getting those automatic bids into that playoff as well as much as teams trying to fight to get into bowl games, and a lot more happening there as well. So that being said, we're going to be in for an exciting episode here today. We have 16 nationally televised games, some of which that do have direct college football playoff implications, and it should be a fun one. I'm excited for this particular episode, and I hope you guys are as well. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new to the channel. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. Like Trey Songz, I'll see you guys on the football fields around the country. Alright, so let's go ahead and get things started with a little bit of a doubleheader in the early portions of week number 12. We start out on Boise, Idaho, where the Boise State Broncos are looking to keep their bowl hopes and expectations well and alive. However, they have a tall task ahead of them as they have to take on BYU. BYU, a team that is getting top 25 consideration, and they come with some agendas of their own. BYU trying to continue to lock up the Mountain West divisional title to work their way into the Mountain West championship. They already have that win in the Holy War in the back pocket, but a win here could help solidify things further for the BYU Cougars. However, nobody told Boise State that they were supposed to roll around and die, because boy, did this Boise State team come to play early. They're up 13-0 here in this first half of action. Takes most of the first half before we even find the end zone. Drew Moore does break the scoring for the BYU Cougars, but even with that particular touchdown, they still find themselves down by 6 points. Boise State's going to try to muster up a drive here towards the end of the first half. That is a dot to Danny Hart, throwing it right as he's about to get out of bounds. So that will bring Boise State to about midfield, and the drive continues. Oh my, that is a throw to Eric Pino. Eric Pino is all up in your business, and he still makes the catch anyways. Now, in BYU territory, looks to throw over to the left-hand side. That's caught for a first down. Broncos will immediately get to the line because they only have one timeout, where the Bruiser and John Brown gets it done. Touchdown for Boise State. And they're going to have a 13-point lead into halftime. But you would think BYU would be able to come out this halftime locker room and actually come and make some adjustments, but that has not happened. Boise State is continuing to handle its business, and Boise State will have their biggest lead of the young week number 12, up by 20. Late in the third quarter, it started to become desperation time for Matt King and company. We'll see if this BYU squad can rise to the occasion, facing some serious adversity. First and goal coming up as BYU will run some triple option action, and he'll find Kevin Van into the end zone. That allows BYU to score again, but BYU would not snuff the red zone again until less than 3 minutes left in the game. Boise State will score some points off screen, and it's safe to say this game might be over. But really, that million-dollar question is, what is that final score going to be? But it's not going to be all bad for BYU, at least not individually. Tim Bell's going to break the single career record for most rushing yards in a career. He is the first BYU running back to reach 4,000 career yards. So at least he has that in the back pocket. But with that 2-point conversion ultimately failing, they win with the analytics. Boise State's going to pull off a big upset to start this episode out, taking down BYU and creating some chaos in the Mountain West. Meanwhile, we go out to the middle of America. We had ourselves here in Lawrence, Kansas, actually. We find ourselves with Kansas State taking on Kansas in the battle of the Sunflower States. But right now, it seems clear that the sun does not shine here in Kansas. But we're certainly still in Kansas, at least as of right now. Kansas State and Kansas not playing for much more than pride at this point. Kansas State, at the very least, can still possibly sneak into a bowl game, but they will need to win out. Kansas, the best thing that Kansas can do right now is just simply play that spoiler role. And right now, they are not doing that great of a job playing that spoiler role at all, because Kansas State up by 4 points. This drive is key to possibly carrying momentum into the second half, and Kansas State seizes the moment, finds Travis Lyon in the end zone, and Kansas State extends their lead. However, the Kansas Jayhawks start with the ball to begin the second half of action, and Kansas will at least drive it deep into the red zone. They're going to be looking for a touchdown, not just those free points. Joseph looks over in the middle and finds a receiver in double coverage. It's Jeremy Williams that helps cut it to just a one-possession game. So Kansas State officially being put on notice. And listen, we have already seen an upset happen here in this particular episode. Will that continue, though, as they'll run it up the gut for Joel Scott? And Joel Scott will score for the Wildcats. So 28-17 lead for Kansas State, as Kansas trying to send an all-out blitz, but nobody covers John Clemson. Might have been a zone coverage in the back end to avoid giving up the touchdown, but quarterback makes a good read and allows the drive to continue, where it eventually sets up Joel Scott into the end zone for another touchdown. Kansas in a pretty good spot here now, as the Wildcats do carry an 18-point lead. They are doubling up on who they consider the little brother in the state of Kansas when it comes to football. As first and goal here, Joseph's going to run it in himself. He'll get a touchdown here for the Jayhawks. Joseph able to cut this to 12. We'll see if they can also pick up the 2-point conversion as well. And Joseph, after giving some time, sneaks that in there. However, that will not be enough, as Kansas State will, just for right now, keep those bowl hopes alive. But we do get a chance to also get a top 25 studio update. The Rainbow Warriors putting themselves in a prime position, getting at large bid. They shut out San Diego State. But we do have a couple of other top 25 games coming in your direction. First and foremost, we got a game coming out of the MAC Conference. This MAC Conference has been fun to watch this season, man. We're now here in the Great Lakes Division, and this has serious implications on who could possibly make the conference championship game. West Virginia is still undefeated in conference play, but if Northern Illinois can win, well, they still have to play West Virginia in the final week of the regular season. This is a must-win for the Huskies if they want to make this MAC championship game, and they respond to the moment late in the first quarter. John Cross is going to find a wide but naked open receiver in the middle of the end zone, and the Huskies will strike first out here into Cab, Illinois. However, later on in the first quarter of action, though, Illinois is looking for some points of their own and is going to get it with a triple option. Andre Dodd running through multiple defenders, and Illinois will now even it up. It's been a back and forth game throughout the first half, but Northern Illinois will take the lead. They also have the benefit of starting with the ball to begin the second half, and if I'm showing special teams, something special is about to go down. Oh, baby, go all the way. Touchdown, Northern Illinois, and Aaron Wheeler will give the Huskies the biggest lead of the ball game. So Northern Illinois has the lead, and they also have momentum. They'll create some more of it with this big-time throw from John Cross, finding Will Chavez into the end zone. Another touchdown for the Huskies. This was a big-time throw by John Cross. Looking down the barrel of the gun. Did not matter. Throws inaccurate. Football in Northern Illinois in firm control here in this third quarter. They get it up to a 30-10 lead, but then this head scratcher of a pitch from John Cross later on in the quarter, well, that gives Illinois some life all of a sudden. I mean, if you're that NIU quarterback, honestly, what are you actually doing right now? Absolutely asinine that you even consider to pitch that ball. That is some pee-wee stuff, and it allows Illinois to work its way back into the game. And dare I say it, Illinois might have a comeback in its back pocket. Final minutes of the fourth quarter. Illinois drives again down the field. Hands it off to Alec Walker. And Illinois has the lead again. So now Northern Illinois needs to drive into field goal range in order to win the game possibly. But hold up now. Wait a minute. They made a mistake. Aaron Wheeler touched the ball a second time and makes him pay for it. His second kick return for a touchdown. And now Northern Illinois has the lead, but they don't just want the lead. They want to secure it, trying to get that 2-point conversion so that even if Illinois gets a last-minute touchdown, at least there could be overtime in the back pocket. And that was a really difficult one to get off. Lance Brown found his way in. Far more difficult than what it should have been, though. So Illinois has 15 seconds to drive down the length of the field, but if you're gonna pull it off, you need a big play like that. Jeff Fields open right down the middle. They're in Husky territory, and Illinois will quickly get to the line. Less than 10 seconds left. They snap quickly. Looking over to the left-hand side. Throws it short, and it's going to be intercepted. Will Silipek, who was considering to go to the NFL. Well, I'm sure he's happy. I'm sure his team is happy that he decided to stay for his senior year, because that interception and pick six will secure victory for NIU. NIU could be a team moving up the ranks thanks to this impressive and frankly exciting top 25 matchup. But that's not the only top 25 matchup that we have going on that has major conference implications. Let's go down to the Lone Star State as the Texas Longhorns travel to take on the number 24 ranked Houston Cougars. And this has big game expectations here, man. Houston, if they can win this game, they will control the Lone Star divisional race. As for Texas, they need this win to stay alive for that Big 12 championship hunt. They also have Rice waiting for them next week, and Rice having a good season of their own. So we'll see if Houston can rise to the occasion, as opening drive is going to start really well for Texas. They're going to drive down the length of the field, get some good time off the clock as well. So Texas will strike first here in this key top 25 matchup. Although not only will Texas strike first, well, they're going to also strike a second time as well. Houston finding out real quick what it means to try and compete with the big boys of college football. And Texas is a team that nearly won that national championship last season. Yes, they are not that same team, but man, can these guys still play? And man, can these guys still be explosive at any given moment? Omar Magnum is going to take it down the sideline, and one-on-one coverage on that wide receiver, it's barbecue chicken. And it's not the only time that Houston will make such a mistake. Hang on now, never mind. Houston's going to get an interception here. The Cougars are going to have a little bit of life. Casey Kennedy tracking that ball, and that was caused by, well, Carl Magnum throwing across his body. If you're a quarterback watching this, that's a big no-no, especially when you get to the college football level. Those college caliber DBs, they will tear you apart if you do that at any point. So, thankfully for the Texas Longhorns, Houston could not do anything with it. So, it still remains 21-3. Even though Houston had great field position, and Texas just going to go ahead and shut that door real quick. Magnum's going to drop back. He's going to find Tanner Harris in the back of the end zone. It's another touchdown for Texas, and it's a game that absolutely ends in a complete slaughter. Texas is going to beat Houston 42-6, and what this means more importantly is that Texas has a date with Rice to decide the Lone Star division in the Big 12. But with that being said, we have a bunch of more games that are getting ready to start, opening back up. Multiple ranked teams getting ready to go at it. Well, we'll check in on that Wake Forest and Clemson game real soon. That could have some real implications in one of the ACC divisional races going on to decide who goes and plays for that ACC championship game. So we'll have that soon, but for now, we got a little bit of a Buckeye State action here as Cincinnati makes a short drive up to I-71. They will take on the Ohio State Buckeyes, ranked number 13 in the entire country. Cincinnati, especially being here in the Horseshoe, they are going to have their work absolutely cut out for them, and I just don't think they're capable of handling that work at all. Anton Samuel is going to find the end zone early in the second quarter, so the Bearcats are already down 14-0, and just when you think Cincinnati could possibly maybe work its way back into the game, well, they throw that interception there too, which Ohio State will take full advantage. Hicks looks over the middle and finds, once again, another receiver by the name of Chad London. Brooks Hicks threw across his body, but he got away with it that time around. Doesn't happen always like that. But Ohio State is going to dominate the Bearcats, so as Ohio State wins by 40+. And we could be in for another similar result as well. Granted, Charlotte a little bit better of a football program than what we just saw in the Cincinnati Bearcats. Don't think I would be saying that in 2024, but here we are anyways. They're going on the road here to take on number 5 LSU. LSU with aspirations to make it into this college football playoff still, as that pass is going to be intercepted down the sideline, brought down by the quarterback. But the 49ers will have some life as they keep it scoreless here. Matter of fact, Charlotte has a chance to take the lead. He throws, and it's intercepted. Oh, you hate to see it. You absolutely hate to see it. You know, when you're an underdog in Death Valley, you gotta take advantage of those opportunities, because those could be few and far in between. Instead, we don't see Charlotte getting the first points of the ball game. We see LSU doing that. And not only will LSU do that the first time, they're going to likely do it here a second time, as well as their tailbacks able to get a little bit of space or a little bit of wiggle room on that halfback screen. So now LSU has a brand new set of downs, as Derek Brown's going to drop back. He's going to want to scramble out of the pocket. Gets away from one defender. Not a second one, but a gain of 11 on the play. A little bit of a setback by the false start earlier in the drive, but they more than make up for it and give Quentin Williams a touchdown. Always got to show some love to those big boys playing that fullback position. Certainly a dying breed in modern college football. But what is certainly never going out of style is just running that ball down the gut, especially when you get down here in the red zone, when the space is absolutely limited in terms of, spacing in your passing game. So to be able to get these wide butt naked open runs like this is nothing short of absolutely beneficial. LSU is going to score yet again. And right before we get out of the third quarter of action, one more run for the tailback, who sends the linebacker into another dimension. And LSU wins 41-0. We got that blowout that we expected. Meanwhile, we could be in for, maybe a third blowout in a row, because South Carolina, I thought South Carolina would be a lot better in this geographical realignment. That has not been the case here in this series at all. Matter of fact, I would venture on to say that South Carolina is absolutely a poverty program right now. Poverty program in South Carolina. But we'll see if they can play a little bit of spoiler here against Florida. Maybe get an unexpected victory, as Florida does have bigger fish to fry down the road. So it is certainly possible to see South Carolina being seen as a look-ahead type of game where they're looking forward to future matchups that they're going to have to deal with, and then they don't focus in the moment. We are kind of seeing that right now, aren't we, with Florida only up by a field goal with 1 minute left to play here in this first half of action. But Florida's starting to find a rhythm offensively, though. Kador is going to go ahead and move his guys into no huddle quickly. They still have a timeout to work with. Probably will not be needed, though, as Octavian Kador, one of your guys' customs, he's going to find the end zone, and that is a touchdown for the Florida Gators. So that takes us into halftime, and Florida will have a 17-7 lead into the halftime locker room. We now will go ahead and move into that second half of action, though, as Florida looks to score yet again. As Kador is going to roll out to his right, going to scramble yet again, slides down in front of the defender, and it makes the third down so much more reasonable. It only becomes a 3rd and 5. One where Kador is going to strike. Yet again, touchdown Florida, and the Gators are going to be up 24-7. So not looking good here for South Carolina as they are facing down yet another daunting L. But the South Carolina team, they're still playing extremely hard. They're not giving up on this new head coach that is in his first year, trying to build a program from the ground back up. But they just don't have the horses to hang with Florida as the Gators hang out in the swamp, winning by 17. Meanwhile, keeping it in that former SEC country, we got Kentucky taking on Mississippi State in what is now considered a non-conference matchup. Both teams looking to get that bowl eligibility, with Kentucky needing to win a little bit more. A loss here means that they are going to need to win their next 2 games in order to make that happen. Meanwhile, for Mississippi State, if they can just win this game here today, they will be bowl eligible for the 2nd year in a row, as Mississippi State will score late in the first quarter in order to tie things up against their former SEC rival in the Kentucky Wildcats. It does remain a pretty competitive game for most of the first half. Justin Credible does have a chance to try to throw the ball up the middle. He does get intercepted, though, so leaves that door a little bit open for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, as we'll see a throw over the middle to Steven Berg. And Steven Berg will score what is turning into a defensive-minded, a more points are a premium type game. That could come back to haunt them. That interception in the red zone, could that possibly haunt this Kentucky Wildcat squad? Well, with 6 minutes left to play in the ball game, it surely could be the case, as Credible will hand it off up the gut and find Jay Bowling into the end zone. Touchdown Wildcats! So Kentucky will take the lead, but does it leave too much time for the Bulldogs of Mississippi State? They got 2 minutes left to work through, and they still have all of their timeouts as well. We'll see how the Bulldogs handle the 2-minute offense, as they'll throw over the middle, find the tight end for the first down. He's still on his feet and is eventually dragged down, but not until he reaches about that 15-yard line. So now a much more favorable position for the Bulldogs, as they don't have to necessarily hurry up if they don't want to do that. But scoring is not always guaranteed. Even though Justin Credible is coming in on the other side, he's a good quarterback for Kentucky. Could be a superstar for the Wildcats one day. You know, you can handle your business here, get the score, and that will actually send us into overtime. So we get a little bit of overtime action, a little bit of extra playing on the dime, you know, making your game worthwhile. As we'll go ahead and jump into that first overtime action now, as Mississippi State will get things going with a first down there. Mississippi State looking to set the tone with a touchdown to begin the overtime period, which is exactly what they will do with BJ Hughes. So Mississippi State does score to start the overtime period. Kentucky must react, and they must score a touchdown as well. But first, they got to pick up this first down. 4th and 7. They try to throw a screen, and it nearly should have been picked off. Goes harmlessly onto the ground, and Mississippi State, well, they officially secure bowl eligibility. Meanwhile, we head out to Seattle, Washington, where they will take on the Beavers of Oregon State. Washington trying to keep itself in the hunt for an at-large bid in the event that they either lose the Pac-12 championship or they have another stumble that prevents them to going to that Pac-12 championship, although they are a virtual lock at this point in the season. Washington is coming with a different focus, that run-heavy attack led by their quarterback, Scott Johnson. Yes, the quarterback is leading the running. You don't typically see quarterbacks run for nearly 1,000 yards, but Scott Johnson, well, he is on pace to do exactly that. Literally on pace to do exactly that with 2 games left to go, plus a possible championship game and possibly some postseason action, because they will be going to a bowl game. There is zero doubt about it. And there's zero doubt that Washington is certainly taking Oregon State seriously, the way that they're handing this beatdown to the Oregon State Beavers. Although, granted, late in the ball game, Stephen Wallace will finally find the end zone, his first and likely only passing touchdown of the game. Washington will, however, prevail in spite of that garbage time touchdown, as Washington gets to 9-2. And of course, we got some ACC action, huge ACC implications. Clemson needing this win in order to make sure that they're in a win-and-in scenario when they do have to go play Virginia Tech next week. Wake Forest can completely crash things, though. A win for Wake Forest means that they would actually be the ones in the driver's seat to go to the ACC championship game. So, got all of that going on here in this Wake Forest and Clemson matchup. And it's all knotted up at 10. It's a very competitive game. Jamar Moore, however, makes sure it's not as competitive. Jamar Moore, wide but naked open in the back of the end zone, gives an easy throw for Charles Ernst, which, by the way, starting quarterback for Clemson, one of your guys is customs, and not only one of your guys is customs, but Naosuke is the Heisman Trophy winner from last season. He stayed for his senior year. Well, he's hurt right now, so that's why you're seeing Charles Ernst in the game instead of, well, a different quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. However, 30 seconds left here in the first half. Clemson is in field goal range, but a dangerous throw that does end up being intercepted is going to keep this as a one-possession game going into the halftime locker room. So, big interception for the Demon Deacons. Hopefully they can get something out of their offense in the second half. But first, Clemson starts with the ball themselves to begin this third quarter of action. And the Clemson Tigers will drive all the way into the red zone to try to make this their biggest lead of the entire ball game, which they will indeed accomplish. Charles Ernst will just simply follow his blockers into the end zone, and that is a touchdown for the Clemson Tigers. Less than 5 minutes left to play in the third quarter. Clemson gets the ball yet again, and once again finds Jamar Moore into the end zone. Touchdown Tigers, and it'll set up a date with Virginia Tech to compete for a spot in the ACC championship. But we do have some studio updates happening for us down the line, and Ball State was making some noise, and they almost made some more of it, nearly taking down an undefeated Michigan Wolverine squad in the Big House, mind you. They don't do it, but hey, shout out to Ball State for making it a competitive game. We do also get a couple of other results in that Big Ten conference. Michigan State beats Miami, so that keeps the Spartans' bowl hopes alive. Also, we do see Akron beat Kent State. Kent State no longer is going to be bowl eligible either. And of course, to check out some more studio updates. Arkansas taking down Louisiana Monroe 28-24. This does not affect the Sun Belt Conference race, but Arkansas does increase their ranking with this win in order to possibly improve their seeding in the college football playoff should they win the Sun Belt. And UCLA trying to hang on to those at-large bids by a Fred. This helps, beating Fresno State convincingly at home. Alright guys, so there was actually another game that I wanted to show in that 3:30 slate, and it was this Virginia-North Carolina game. Did have some ACC conference implications. Virginia's having a pleasant season at 7-3, but a big-time loss here against North Carolina, getting blown out on the road. So the Cavaliers fall to 7-4, but still a good season, especially for Isaac Thompson, who is one of your guys' offensive coordinators and custom coaches. But now we'll pick ourselves back into the action as Tennessee is going on the road to take on their in-state rivals, the Commodores of Vanderbilt University, in a must-win for both teams, trying to keep their bowl eligibility hopes alive. And oddly enough, both teams also in the hunt to make it to the MAC championship still. Both teams are part of a much weaker division than what we have going on in the Great Lakes division of the MAC conference right now. And it looks like Tennessee is rolling right now early on. Tennessee been a very disappointing team here, a team that was, at least early in the season, ranked in the top 25, but, you know, have not lived up to expectations at all. But they are up 21-0 though. They could make it 28-0, except the linebacker makes a great read and getting the interception on this senior quarterback, as we will have a studio update while we have a break from that. Eastern Michigan, I see you. I was not familiar with your game, young fella. But here I am now, pulling the upset off against number 15 Wisconsin, 29-28. Oh my. So we have a top 25, another top 25 team going out, as we will see if Tennessee can hang on and win here. They should, but hey, nothing is guaranteed in this beautiful game that is college football. Tennessee is going to go ahead and hand it off up the gut, and that will be a score for Jason Evans. And that should do it here, as Tennessee will keep its bowl hopes alive, taking down Vanderbilt with ease. As now we're getting into the final games here of week number 12. And here's what we got going on. Multiple top 25 teams getting ready to jump into it. But for now, we'll jump into the Mountain West to take a look at a little bit of a rivalry that is, you know, maybe a little bit not as heralded. Maybe a little bit on that underrated side, we should say. Nevada is going to take on UNLV, as Nevada is going to start the scoring here. And David Hill is a nice running back for Nevada. Doesn't get a lot of attention. Doesn't get a lot of the talk of the accolades. But man, David Hill is a nice running back, man. He is an absolutely nice running back. But UNLV, they have more than their fair share of good players as well. Jamal Bowman being one of them. He's a transfer from the FCS level. It's Jamal Bowman will handle his business as well, getting UNLV on the board here midway through the first quarter of action. Later on in the first quarter, UNLV has yet another red zone opportunity, as Bowman's going to look over to the right-hand side and finds his man, Justin Singleton, in the end zone. Touchdown, Rebels. And Justin Singleton now has the career mark for most touchdowns in a career. I just hiccup, and that's sexy. That being said, UNLV will pick things up here in the second quarter of action, and it almost seems like UNLV is getting ready to go ahead and run away with it here in the second quarter of action. But hey, that's the beautiful thing about rivalry games. You truly never know what you are going to get, no matter how just oddly matched, how unevenly matched these two teams are in any rivalry. And you can say this with any rivalry in college football. Some weird things happen here, man. Maybe we're going to start to see some weird things happen here, as Nevada is still in this game with 2.5 minutes left to play in the first half. And that interception should help as well. Jamal Bowman does end up getting intercepted by Skip Payne. And he's going to try to make sure UNLV feels the pain of that interception, trying to create some points off the turnover. Quarterback's going to scramble over to the left-hand side. Keeps it on the read option. Leroy Morris picks up the first down for the Wolfpack, closing in on nearly 800 yards of rushing. He's a dynamic threat. Later on in the drive, though, it's going to be not a keeper, but for the tailback, David Hill. And it's a foot race down the sideline, but gets caught from the side. Pushed out inside the 5-yard line, and just a handful of yards away from tying this thing up. And Leroy Morris is going to do exactly that. Finds to check down at James Clark. We got a tie ball game on our hands here at 21 apiece. But UNLV cannot answer back. They go 3 and out. So Nevada with a chance to add even more points onto the board before we go into the half. We'll see what they can do here in the final minute. One timeout left to work. David is going to get the halfback screen yet again. He gets across the 50. Pushed out of bounds at about the 47-yard line. Clock will remain at 38 seconds for now, as Leroy's going to look over to the right-hand side and throws a dime. First down for Nevada. And Nevada with a chance to take the lead in the goal line, but Leroy Morris drops it. He drops it on the goal line. Unbelievable. Just terrible luck for Nevada there. Literally 1 yard later, you would have been fine. It probably would have counted as a touchdown. The review would have still been close. Would have been too close for comfort, but probably would have been considered a touchdown on the review. Crazy stuff happening. But UNLV, man, after that fumble recovery, it seems like UNLV is going to run away with it, like in their name, in the Running Rebels. So 41-28 is your score. They could just be good sports about it, or they could do what I would do, and probably what many of you watching would also do, and that's try to run the score up against your hated rival. And you know what, UNLV? Well, they choose option B. They're going to go ahead and dump it off to Albert Smith, get themselves yet another first down. So, first and goal coming up. We'll see if they choose to run it or not. Nope, going to pass it. And Jamal Bowman's going to find his man to the end zone. UNLV will win their rivalry game, as well as their 7th game of the season. So, we now check down in the Sunshine State as we get into the Sunshine Division. South Florida, they have been a punching bag for some of the better teams in the Sunshine Division, but USF's a good team, man. They just are looking for that marquee win. Can they finally get that marquee win here in this exact episode? Florida State off to a sluggish start offensively, so this certainly does benefit USF as they're also trying to get their offense to find a way to score against a defense that is one of the better defenses in college football. And sure enough, that touchdown will help them tie it up. Later on in the second quarter, however, Florida State is starting to get it rolling just a little bit now, as Florida State is putting together a solid, not liquid or gas drive, as their quarterback, Jonathan Smart, well, he is going to wisely keep this ball himself on the read option, and Florida State will retake the lead. Jumping now into the fourth quarter, as it ends up being a very close game throughout the night. Here in Tallahassee, Florida, USF potentially 1 quarter away from upsetting the number 6 team in America. Can USF have the cojones to pull this off? Do they got that dog in them? 24-10 is your score after a Florida State touchdown, and Jonathan Smart drives them down into the red zone again. And it looks like USF, man, they are just running out of gas. They want to win it, but the game is quickly slipping away from their fingers. And if they score here yet again, then oh baby, this game that we thought that was close throughout, absolutely close throughout, it's going to quickly become barbecue chicken. And sure enough, Smart finds his man Dallas Wade in the end zone. Another touchdown for Florida State. And it's barbecue chicken. Florida State does pull away in the fourth quarter as they take down USF. That being said, we now check in on Notre Dame. You want to talk about teams that have been disappointing this year? Notre Dame has to absolutely be on top of that list. Good grief. This team has an overall in the 90s. I thought Notre Dame would be, competing for a conference championship. No, they would be lucky to go to a bowl game. Like, actually, just go to a regular bowl game. They need a win out to make that happen here. So it starts with this Louisville game here at home, but Louisville's trying to make some things happen. They got a brand new coach themselves, and their new coach is installing some things here in Louisville for sure. Team is better than last year, and they're competitive with Notre Dame. You love to see that. We'll see if they can also find the end zone here for the first time, and sure enough, they will. They will find Dave Rogers in the end zone, and that is a touchdown for the Cardinals. So it's all knotted up at 7 apiece here as Notre Dame is looking to take it upfield yet again, and he'll run it up the gut with Greg Hunt. Greg Hunt will pick up a few yards there. But 3rd and 6 coming up, a big third down. That's one reason why Notre Dame has struggled mightily this year, is that they have not been a good third down team all year long. We do see that change a little bit here, though, getting a third down touchdown. So, nice to see a little bit of growth in general from this offense. We'll see if Notre Dame can do the exact same thing again. Another goal line situation for the Fighting Irish as Hunt is in the shotgun. He's got 4 wide receivers to choose from and finds Justin McBride for another touchdown for the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame will extend their lead out to a 27-7 affair. And it looks like Notre Dame looking to shut the door against this crafty and just smart Louisville team. It looks like Louisville does not have the scrappiness to hang with Notre Dame here today, as Cole Lowry will find the end zone for the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame keeps their bowl hopes alive for now. Louisville, on the other hand, must win their next 2 to do the same thing. And now we finally, while we're thinking about Maction here, how about West Virginia, ranked number 20 in the country, taking on a fellow MAC opponent in Northwestern. Northwestern's been a dumpster fire this year. Granted, they do have a new coach, so maybe they'll give him a little bit of time, but 1-8 is not really what you want to see. At all. At freaking all. And especially when you're hosting West Virginia, this could absolutely get ugly for sure. And midway through the first quarter, we get what we expect. West Virginia taking the lead as they will find Jake Sanders in the middle of that zone coverage. So the Mountaineers will have the lead, but then something interesting happens. Northwestern actually scores their next 10 points. So Northwestern has a lead here at old Ryan Field. We'll see a new Ryan Field probably in the next college football video game. I think Northwestern said in renderings of their new stadium so could be something to look out for in the future. But Grant Smith is going to find the end zone. That is a touchdown for the Wildcats. So Northwestern has a 17-14 lead, and Northwestern has a chance to extend that lead as well, as a man wide butt naked open. It's Sam Bennett. How do you leave someone that wide open in a critical situation like that? I will never figure that out, but we will figure out if Northwestern can extend this lead, because, oh baby, they will certainly do exactly that. Northwestern with a 24-14 lead. And West Virginia's in some trouble. They are in some serious trouble right now. We can call it. We got an upset alert here in Evanston, Illinois. Can the Wildcats hang on, though? West Virginia out here in the red zone, though, as they'll hand it off to their tailback, Dan Bishop. Dan Bishop will go ahead and pick up a gain of 7. As now we got a goal line situation coming up. We're going to run it up the left-hand side as Dan Bishop going to run his way into the end zone, and that is a touchdown for the Mountaineers yet again. Gonna be up by, only down by a few points here, but Northwestern, listen, Northwestern putting together a complete game right now. They are putting together a complete performance at the moment, as now Northwestern, with a chance to make it a 2-score game, hands it off to the tailback, Brad Baldwin. And Brad Baldwin moves to 6. Doesn't get a lot of touches normally, but his third carry, he does end up making the most of it. As now Northwestern looks over to the right-hand side, and that will be another good play, a productive play for his Northwestern offense. Can they punch it in? No. Long drive for the Wildcats, especially down here in the red zone. And Titus Dunbar is going to deliver. Touchdown, Wildcats, and West Virginia finds itself down by 10 here in the final quarter of action. Can Northwestern actually hang on and win this thing? Oh, baby, this would be a stunner. First and goal, though, for the Mountaineers as they'll hand it off to Dan Bishop, who helps even things up, or at least get closer to evening things up, as West Virginia does spark a run after that Dan Bishop touchdown. One that is going to be including an exclamation point from Kevin Miller. So, oh baby, it was a close call, but 20 unanswered from West Virginia keeps our MAC hopes alive. But now let's go ahead and take a look around the country to see some games that weren't necessarily on national television either. How Arizona does get back to 500, doing it in an emphatic way, blowing out Air Force 38-6. And I think at this point it's fair to say that Dion Kirby, he might be searching for a new job this offseason, only 2-8 here in his 4th year on campus. As for the Army Black Knights, they make a statement going into Happy Valley and handling their business in Happy Valley. 28 first half points was all that Army needed. They improved to 9-1 and control their destiny to make it back to the Conference USA Championship. As for Bowling Green, they also control their fate in terms of being bowl eligible. They blow out Central Michigan 40-10, and because of this loss, the Chippewas are also out of the bowl picture. They will not be bowl eligible this year. As for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, they are entrenching themselves in an at-large race as Minnesota blows out Iowa State 56-26. This also means that the Cyclones will also not be going bowling here in year number 4. However, the TCU Horned Frogs show out in their battle against Oklahoma State. We thought about showing this game actually, but we opted to show the Hawaii and UCLA game instead because that was a ranked matchup. Didn't miss much as TCU blows out Oklahoma State to get back into the top 25. As for a lower battle of Indiana, the Boilermakers prove that they're not the worst team in Indiana at least. They blow out Indiana 52-20. Both teams only have 3 wins on the season though. Meanwhile, the Sooners of Oklahoma are now an 8-2 squad, and they do so by holding off Tulsa. Tulsa had a pretty good first half but ran out of gas as the Golden Hurricanes fall by just 10 points. However, the Utes of Utah climb back into the top 25 after they dropped 2 games in a row. Utah does this by blowing out Wyoming 56-14. The Utes are back into the top 25 again. And then a little bit of rapid fire here before we check in on these polls. Rice did beat Baylor 55-31, and this Rice victory does set up a showdown against Texas for the 3rd year in a row to decide who goes to the Big 12 championship here in the postseason and gets one of possible playoff spot for the Big 12 conference. Also, we have North Carolina State keeping its bowl hopes alive, doing it by blowing out Old Dominion. The Wolfpack win 49-17, but North Carolina State must win their next 2 games in order to be bowl eligible. And finally, Virginia Tech. Well, Virginia Tech is trying to get back into the top 25, but at 9-2, they don't get that same love. However, they do take that frustration out on the Appalachian State Mountaineers as Virginia Tech wins 45-3. So, speaking of that top 25, what is that looking like? And now that we're getting into the late portions of the season, unless someone loses, there's not going to be a whole lot of change. And we see this in the first 12 to 13 spots. Nobody really moving. We are starting to see a little bit more of movement towards the back end, though, as we get into these bottom rungs of the top 25. Mostly to note here is that we do have two newcomers. Like we said, we do have TCU at number 23, Utah is at number 24, and then Wisconsin with the biggest shift among teams still remaining in the top 25. Wisconsin finishing the regular season at 10-2, but they are barely hanging on to number 25 in the country. They await their fate for postseason action. But this means that we only have 2 weeks left in the NCSL regular season before we go ahead and figure out who's going to conference championship games, who is in that hunt for at-large bids for the college football playoff. But with that being said, we will figure those things out in the next couple of episodes. Next episode got a couple of really good matchups that I'm sure you're going to love and adore. But if you enjoyed season number 4 of the NCSL Dynasty, I need you to go ahead and do me a favor real quick. Go ahead and smack that like button for me. And if you love the vibes here on this channel and you are brand new as well, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button as well. With that being said, this is John Shake Gaming on the mic signing off. But hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.